Hello, welcome to part 4 of this little series of videos on engraving glass for beginners. When I made part 3, I promised I would cover shading in a bit more detail because I know that's a subject which a lot of people want to find out a bit more about. So what I've done is I've selected a small number of bits to use. I've got a diamond bar, a green stone, a white stone and a couple of polishing bars here. And what I hope to show you in this video is the different tones that you can achieve using these burrs. What happens when we engrave glass is, in effect, we're scratching the surface of the glass, and each scratch that you make reflects the light back at you or out in different directions, and that's what makes it white. So it makes sense, therefore, that the more the bar scratches the glass, the whiter the finished result's going to be. Logic tells us then that the diamond bar is probably going to give us the whitest outcome, whereas the smoothest of the polishing rubbers will probably give us the darkest one. For today's engraving, I'm just going to use a square of window glass, 3mm float glass. It's nothing fancy. But what I'll do now is I'll go through to the workbench and make a start so you can see what I mean about how these different bars can give you different tones. So here I have moved through to the workbench and mounted the piece of glass up ready for engraving. And the first section I'm doing is with the diamond bar, a round diamond bar. And you can see I'm just working dry. First of all, I think this gives me an opportunity to point out why I keep saying that you have to wear a face mask when you're engraving glass. You can see the amount of dust that's coming off here. All I'm doing is engraving over the whole area, trying to make it as even as I can so that you can get a good clear view of how white the finished version is. Once I've finished with the diamond bar dry, I'm going to use exactly the same bar, but I'm working wet this time. But same process, go over all of the section of glass so that we can get a nice view of how light or dark the finished engraving is. The third section I'm engraving with the green stone. This is quite a small stone for this area, but I'll just take my time and be patient and just try and fill in the whole area. Just exactly the same as with the diamond bars, back and forward, fill it in and try to get as even a finish as I can. The next section I'm doing with a little white stone. This is a much smoother stone than the green one, so I'm hoping that's going to give us a darker finish. But again, same thing, just fill in each section with the stone, trying to get as even a finish as I can. The next section I'm using a blue polishing rubber. Although this is a polishing rubber, it is quite coarse and it will cut through the glass quite effectively. If I wanted to, I could actually hollow out the glass quite well with this rubber. But in this case, I'm just using it to treat the surface so we can get a look at how light or dark the finish is. And for the last section, I'm using a green polishing rubber. This one's quite a lot smoother than the blue one I've just used. And hopefully again that will give us a slightly darker finish. The first section here is one of the ones I did with the diamond bar, that one, and that was done dry. This next section has been done with exactly the same bar but wet, and there's a very noticeable difference in tone between those two. The third section has been done with a green stone, a green silicon carbide stone. And again, a very clear colour difference in tone, I should say, between this strip and this strip. And the only caveat I would give there is that not all green stones are the same. Some of them are much coarser and they might in fact give you a lighter colour. You just have to get to know your stones and pay a bit of attention, have a good look at them and decide. Fourth strip has been done with the equivalent of a little white Arkansas stone. It's It's not an Arkansas stone. One of these days I will invest in some proper ones, but that one is what I use for that purpose just now, and you can see it's quite clearly darker than the strip I got from the green stone. The blue polisher, which is quite a coarse polisher, I can feel quite a lot of coarseness in that. It gives me this tone here, certainly much darker than I get with the white Arkansas stone. And the final strip, which I don't know if you can see it on the video, it is engraved on. There is a mark there from the polisher. This polisher is quite a smooth green one. So it does polish. It's not an unengraved section of glass. If I tip it, you might be able to see it better, I don't know. But that certainly gives me the darkest tone, and that's as dark as I can get and still have the glass being noticeably engraved on. So those are 6 different tones from 5 different burrs. And you can see you can quite easily get a change in tone just by choosing which burr you engrave with. But if you watch the last part of this series, which was about surface engraving, you'll have noticed that in practice that's not really the way that it works. What I did there was I engraved the image first and then went back over it with polishing stones to make certain areas of it darker. So in practice what you tend to do is mix and match the burrs together to get the tone that you want. So just for a bit of fun, I'll take this back into the workbench and go over each of these areas with each of the other ones so we can see which different tones we get by doing that. Now that I'm back at the workbench, I'm just going to go over these lines with the burrs again so we can see what effect that has on them. I'm not going to use the dry diamond. That's very coarse and would just wipe out everything that's underneath it, but I've gone over there with the wet one. Now the green stone, going over all of the lines again. White stone. And then I've got the blue polishing rubber again. Just gently back and forward over to it so we can see what effect that has. And finally the green one, I've had to move up the other end for that one because I started in the wrong place. So there it is. That's the final result when you kind of mix and match your burrs. A couple of points to notice. This line was done with the diamond burr wet, and as you can see, if you go over a darker tone with that, it basically takes everything up to the same tone as the wet diamond. So going over a smoother area with a coarser burr will basically take it up to the tone that you would achieve with that coarser burr in the first place. Where you start to see darkening is where you're going over a coarser area with a smoother stone. So where the white stone here is going over the original ones that were done with the rubber polisher, you can see it is making it lighter. But as soon as it starts going over the green stone or the wet diamond or the dry diamond, what you're getting is quite a subtle change in the tone, just darkening it down slightly. The blue polishing rubber, because it is quite coarse, the impact is a lot less subtle. It's basically taking everything back down, not maybe to quite as dark as when you use it on its own, but still quite dark. And that's because it's quite coarse and it's taking off all of the surface treatment. You get a much more useful, a much more subtle effect with the smoother green stone, because here, as you can see, it's just making a very slight subtle difference in tone from the original colour. So I've only got, what have I got? 5 burrs there. With those 5 burrs, mixing them together, I can get a whole range of tones. And it's only a case of understanding how coarse or smooth the different burrs are. As soon as you understand that, then you can put them together to get the tone that you want in your engraving. So that's it for today. I hope I've been able to show you how you can get quite a wide range of tones into your engraving really fairly easily. I didn't use huge numbers of different burrs, just those 5 original ones. but by combining them and mixing them together and sometimes going back over the top of previous engraving, it's quite easy to get quite a big range of tone in there. Hopefully you'll be able to use that in your engravings. What I think I'll cover in the next part of this series will be intaglio engraving. Now by intaglio engraving I mean cutting fairly deeply into the glass. Part 3 we covered surface engraving, and that's really just marking on the top of the glass. Intaglio engraving means cutting into the glass and cutting away the glass, and it affects how the light passes through the glass, and it can give you quite a good 3D effect on your engraving. So the next part I think I will cover intaglio engraving, but I hope you've found the information on shading and how to get the shading into your engraving useful. If you have any comments, or if there's anything you would like me to cover in a video, please just leave a comment below. I do look at them all, and thank you very much for watching.